My name is David Day. I'm with a company called Gateway Mapping. Gateway Mapping is a subsidiary company to JUB Engineers. JUB is a civil engineering firm located in Idaho, Utah, Washington, and Colorado. About 350 people. Gateway Mapping, the subsidiary, is a geographic information systems consulting arm of JUB, specializing in computerized mapping. And Gateway Mapping was organized in 1991. We're one of the oldest pure GIS consulting firms in the West. And in 1993, we were looking for new innovative ways to use this technology of digital mapping with our clients, cities, counties, special service districts. And we drove one day, we were driving through a city, we saw a cemetery, and we thought, hey, that's a pretty cool idea, because cemeteries have maps and records, and the records are in books and ledger books and cards. And we thought, you know, if we could use this technology to bring the mapping into a digital format and the records into a digital format and have them work together, that would really be a benefit to cemeteries. We talked to a couple of our municipal clients that had cemeteries, and we presented this idea of taking their paper records and putting them into a digital format. They loved it. And immediately we had 2 or 3 projects where we took the paper maps and we turned them into a computer map and so forth. Right about then, we developed software called Spatial Generations. And Spatial Generations is a technology that takes the digital mapping and the digital database of deceased information and combines the two together on a pretty user interface. So these cemeteries now had technology. Not only did they have their records in a digital format, but they have the technology to manage the records. So they could type in a last name, Jorgensen, and there would be all the Jorgensens in their cemetery, and they could find the one they're looking for, and they could edit or update the information. If someone came in and wanted to buy a grave, they could manage that whole process. And so they went from an old ledger book, hand record keeping method to this state-of-the-art computer technology, and they loved it. As the next step, we thought, and this came to us around the same time, even before the internet was real strong, wouldn't it be great to take this information that used to be on paper and make it available via the internet to families, to genealogists, historians, etc. And that, for years, has always been our ultimate goal. But the technology wasn't there when we thought of it. And so we watched very carefully as the technology developed over time. And finally, there is now mapping technology for the internet that is very fast. The bandwidth has grown for the internet, and everything's just come along to make this a doable venture. So we began developing Names in Stone in 2000, early 2008, and in December of 2008 we launched Names in Stone. So Names in Stone is a receptacle of all cemetery information, maps and data. And right now we make that website available free of charge to the cemeteries that we mapped that use spatial generations. But we'll make it available to any cemetery that wants to put their information online. So there are dozens and dozens, hundreds of websites dedicated to cemeteries online right now. And the majority of those are alphabetical listings. So someone will go to the cemetery and they'll transcribe headstones and they'll put it in a spreadsheet, and then they'll throw it up on the internet, and some of them you'll be able to search but it's all in alphabetical listing. That's great. That's helping to preserve that information. The unique thing about Names in Stone is the mapping element, and we're the only website that I know of that is a repository of maps as well. There are some sites out there that will have a map of a single cemetery, but we want all of them, as many as we can get. So that's one unique thing. The map is very unique, and here's why. And this is why genealogists love it. When you look at an alphabetical listing of Jorgensens, better than nothing, but you don't really know who's related to who. Once you see the Jorgensens on a map and see who's buried next to whom, then you can start to build families, because that's normally how we bury people, right? Is close to each other in a family. And so that's the beauty of this site, is it helps genealogists visualize family relationships that an alphabetical listing really can't do as well. The nice thing about this site is if you are unable to visit the cemetery for whatever reason, you really can. It's almost a virtual visit, because you can see the grave, you can see the name on the headstone, you can see who's buried around them, just like you were there. And then if you click on that grave, you can see whatever is available from the cemetery. Another unique thing about Names in Stone is the information comes from the cemetery for the Class A cemeteries. Other cemetery websites are populated by the public, and it might be their interpretation, but the Class A data that we provide is directly from the cemetery. It's the official cemetery record. And that is updated as frequently as the cemetery chooses. It has another feature that the public can add their comments as well. For example, if I search for my great-grandma, and I see that the cemetery doesn't have the accurate death date, then I can go in another part of the record and I can say, this is my great-grandma, and I remember the funeral, and this is the date she died, and here's a scanned picture of the headstone, and I can start to build that information, and others can come in and add information as well. So it becomes a nice database of information on individuals. There's a story on our website that was told to me by a good friend of mine. His name is David Rencher. David is now the chief genealogist for the LDS Church. So he's a renowned genealogist, and he told me the story about visiting a small cemetery in the South, and he found someone that knew the cemetery, and they told him that there was possibly the people he's looking for, and he found the headstones, and right between the headstones was a small headstone of a baby that he had no idea existed, because the child died young, and he didn't know that was part of the family tree. And so because of seeing the headstone and this spatial relationship of headstones, he was able to fill in a mystery that couldn't have been done any other way. So